Hey everyone, it's your girl Jen, and I am back to discuss my most recent reads. Books are probably my favorite topic to talk about, so let's get cracking. I want to do a huge thank you to our sponsor, Book of the Month, for sponsoring today's video. Over the weekend, I received my Book of the Month package, and I spent all of Sunday reading. So Book of the Month is America's fastest growing online book service. Each month, they provide 5 book options and you get to pick one or more. Their mission is to shine light on new and emerging authors and help readers discover books they're gonna love. They do all the work for you. They sift through hundreds of books each month, and then they provide you with a curated selection of new and early release titles. So that way you can spend your time reading and less time faffing around trying to find something to read. So this month, I chose People Like Her by Ellery Lloyd. It's about a married couple, and it switches between the perspective of the wife and the husband. So Emmy, the wife, is an Instagram mom, so she's completely obsessed with social media, and everything she does is so calculative to ensure that she stays relevant and relatable. But her husband, meanwhile, Dan, he's honestly sick of it. Emmy's moral compass becomes more skewed, and it's intense. It's just so intense. It's the first time I've ever read a contemporary thriller about social media, so I thoroughly enjoyed this. I am so happy I found this book through Book of the Month. They have got the best price of new release fiction books. You guys should definitely try it. It's risk-free, you can skip any month, anytime, and you won't be charged. If you want to get started today, be sure to use my code JEN5 to get your first book for just $5. All right, so now let's move on to other books that I have loved this past month. So this year, I focused a lot of my attention on the importance of being more critical and mindful about my social media intake. I loved Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport, Irresistible by Adam Alter, and of course, the documentary The Social Dilemma. If you have not seen that documentary yet, it's on Netflix, and it is a required watch. But I was listening to an interview with Tristan Harris, and he quoted an excerpt from this book, Amusing Ourselves to Death by Neil Postman. So this book was published in 1985, and he was talking about the negative effects of television and how it was morphing the public's ability to critically think and to be able to have productive public discourse. Honestly, if Postman was concerned in the 80s, he would probably be even more disappointed in us to see how we have managed to unfold into this messy pool that is today. People just don't read anymore. And as much as I love to make videos and learn from videos, it's not the same as reading a book. And Postman goes to explain the history of the age of typography, which is the era when books were the only source to get ideas in like a full, comprehensive way. I feel like books are an excellent container for information that's been analyzed and accumulated. And the issue with TV and the internet is that it's created an abundance of information, but they're all scattered and decontextualized. They're just bits and pieces, and it's hard for us to connect everything all together. In 1984, so many people were proud and relieved that the reality had not prophesized into what George Orwell describes in his book. So people were stoked. They were like, yeah, we avoided it. But no, Postman describes another dystopia that we've managed to sink ourselves into, which is Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. So this is a dystopia where the people are living in excess, they're constantly amused, constantly laughing, and just not thinking. It's a dystopia where no one cares that they're only focusing on irrelevant things. No one cares that they're being surveillanced and forced to comply. It's just a world where distraction is the only thing that matters. And he's implying that that is the world that we're living in today. But I can go on about this book, and it is actually December's book pick for my book club, Curl Up Club. And if you would like to discuss it with me and other club members, please check out the Instagram page for more information. And I do understand that there is a level of hypocrisy of me promoting my book club and me uploading this video on YouTube, but you know what? Yes, there is a lot of cognitive dissonance, but the thing is, I think the more information I learn about just being more critical about technology and what the earth has become, it's just gonna work in our favor. In order to solve a problem, you must admit that there is a problem, huh? All right, let's move on to the next book. So next up, I have The Best We Can Do by T. Bui. This memoir had me in tears. It was so beautifully illustrated, and I couldn't help but resonate so much with her family story. So this is an illustrated memoir about a Vietnamese family and the struggles that occur when a family is displaced. Bui's parents fled Vietnam in the 70s because it was war-ridden, and after the fall of South Vietnam, there was just no opportunity there. So they immigrated to the United States. Bui's parents did everything to try and make ends meet, but just like the weight of their past and the adjustment to an environment that's just ultimately just not welcoming to Asians had an effect on how they would raise their children. Growing up, I've only seen America's standpoint about the Vietnam War. Nowhere in our history books did we see it from the Vietnamese perspective. So it was so eye-opening and just a complete tragedy. And it's crazy how the effects of war can affect generations for years. It also made me reflect about my parents and how the displacement and the immigration affected them. I think this book is definitely gonna hit home with anyone with immigrant parents. So the next book I wanna talk about is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. And damn, this was another psychological thriller that I completely devoured. So it's about a famous painter, Alicia Berenson, who shoots her husband, kills him, and then never speaks a word. So all the trials happen and she doesn't say a peep. And this book is narrated by Theo, who ends up being her therapist, and he's just dying to know what happened the night of the murder. And he just wants to help her, and I'll just leave it at that. If you enjoyed Girl on the Train or Gone Girl, this book will be right up your alley. So my next read is kind of spooky. It is called Chaos by Tom O'Neill with Dan Piepenbring. This would have been really good to read in October because it was kind of freaky. So this book is very dark. It's about the infamous serial killer, Charles Manson. And really quick, if you guys don't know who he is, he was a cult leader that brainwashed and manipulated his followers to become murderers. It made everyone so paranoid and afraid during the 60s, and everybody was watching the trials really closely. So 20 years ago, Tom O'Neill agreed to do a piece for a magazine about the murders. But during the investigation, he uncovered a lot of evidence of a potential cover-up behind this story. And honestly, reading this, I realized the 60s were crazy, like actually crazy. We think 2020 is bad, but Lord, after you read this, you'll realize that the 60s were chaotic. There were LSD mind control experiments, FBI smear campaigns, and just the CIA was so careless. It's a hot mess. After reading this book, I definitely want to check out Helter Skelter because O'Neill does a lot of exposés and the contradictions in that book, so I would really like to see both sides. After reading this book, do I know what really happened? No. They say that this book kind of borders on conspiracy theories, but hey, I was in it for the ride. And the reason why this book looks untouched is because I read it on my Kindle, but I just thought it looked really nice on my book stand. Moving on, I have Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. I mentioned my thoughts about this in a vlog previously, and I said I wasn't wowed by it, but you know what? I thought I would mention it anyway because I didn't hate it, and I did learn a few things. It essentially explains how behind every or many successful companies, there are great leaders who create environments where people feel comfortable and have a sense of belonging and just feel proud to work there. He also talks about how every leader creates a circle of safety, which means you set culture values, you give power to people to make decisions, and you offer trust and empathy. Humans work best when they don't feel like they're in danger. It was a great reminder for me to remain calm and relaxed when I'm working with my team. I know it seems like common sense for leaders to treat their employees with respect and empathy, but when you have a larger corporation, I guess it's easier for them to see workers as a disposable cog in a system. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just saying the bigger the company is, the more abstract the workers become. It's like that one quote, the death of one person is a tragedy, but the death of a million is a statistic. And yeah, it just explains how when big numbers start representing humans, our ability to empathize begins to falter. It's a decent read about good leaders who care about their people and see their workers beyond an expendable resource. My last book is called Playing the Whore by Melissa Gira Grant. Now, I have had this on my bookshelf over there for literally years. I got this book in Oakland. I guess I've always wanted to know more about the taboo subject of sex workers. This book is not like a detailed expose about the conditions of sex workers or even like a day in the life memoir. It's like a pretty sterile outline of why sex work should be considered and treated as a job and why it should be decriminalized. I appreciate the fact that this was written by a former sex worker, so she goes through case after case on why sex workers' rights are human rights. There was one part that really stuck out to me. She explains that sex workers are always bombarded with the question, are you empowered by this work? Do you feel empowered with what you're doing? And it's hard because if they don't say yes, then suddenly they're not being listened to because suddenly they need to be saved. And now these are sex workers that choose to be sex workers. So that's something to keep in mind. This question about empowerment in a job is not asked when you work at, let's say, the Apple store, or if you're a barista at a smoothie shop. It's only really forced upon people with taboo jobs. And at the end of the day, it is simply a job because people need money. And unfortunately, the people who do decide to choose sex work feel like this is their only option. I really wish there was some testimonies in this book to kind of explain it a little better. I feel like this book skimmed the surface of the topic, but it definitely made me more curious about diving deeper into material about labor rights in this industry. That is a wrap. Those were all my recent reads that I enjoyed, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Please let me know if you guys loved a recent book that you guys read in the comments down below. I truly love looking through that. It makes me so happy. And yeah, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye! Mwah.